Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, Cruise Critic partners with Norwegian Cruise Line to discuss the benefits of cruise vacations in Europe. The editor-in-chief of Cruise Critic shares why you may want to take a cruise to Europe this summer. What are the benefits of taking a cruise compared to staying in traditional hotels? Then today is World Refugee Day. It is an international day organized every year on the 20th of June by the United Nations. It is designed to celebrate and honor refugees from around the world. The director of Airbnb.org programs and the Deputy Director General for Management and Reform for IOM tell us how they are helping those in need of temporary housing. How are these organizations helping those in need? After that, there has been a rise of anti-trans legislation over the last year. The founder of Destination Tomorrow joins me to discuss the concerns over these bills. Why is there a specific focus on the trans community? And finally, there has been a recent spike in bodega store crimes. The Director of Community Relations and the Director of E-commerce Solutions from NRS joins me to tell us how they are helping protect bodegas with a free panic alarm system. How will these alarm systems help mitigate the issue of robberies? So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, June 20th. You're now watching Open, a live program bringing the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Following the long-awaited lifting of travel restrictions, many people began searching for worldwide adventure, but rising prices are leading travelers to consider other options. Editor-in-chief for Cruise Critic Colleen McDaniel joins us for a discussion on why cruise vacations may be a more affordable and stress-free option for those looking to explore Europe. Colleen, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Kevin.
Now, can we just talk about why traveling to Europe, but also traveling in general, has really become so popular lately?
Well, I think that there was a pent-up demand for travel. We all spent a couple of years, really wanting to get out there, and we're finally seeing people doing that, which is terrific. There are so many great travel options, and we believe cruising is the best.
Now, I also want to touch on the fact that obviously everyone's excited to travel, but I think things have gotten also a little bit more expensive since many people have maybe traveled previously, like in 2019 or early 2020. Can you just explain, because of that, what are the benefits of taking a cruise compared to staying in traditional hotels?
Well, this is perfectly within my wheelhouse here. This is such a great question because cruising is absolutely such a great value. And I'll give you three reasons why, according to a recent survey that we did of Cruise Critic readers. Number one is that you unpack only once and you see multiple destinations. Now, there's a bit of a misconception out there around cruising that when you're in port, you don't actually get to see the destination. You don't get to explore and immerse yourself in it. This could not be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, cruise lines are spending more time than ever in ports. Norwegian Cruise Line, for example, is averaging 10 and a half hours in ports that it's visiting in Europe this summer. Number two is ease of travel. You wake up every day in a new port. You have no planes, no trains, no rushed or missed connections, none of the hassle that comes with some of those land vacations. And number three, there is a cost effectiveness associated with cruising. And this is especially true, just like you said, as prices are rising when it comes to planes and hotels. And so cruising is really offering a more inclusive product than you'll get on land. And there are also some really great promotions out there right now. Norwegian Cruise Line, for example, is offering free at sea, which includes free open bar and free shore excursions, among many other things.
Now, something you mentioned that I want to touch on is the fact that you get to explore. I was somebody who didn't think that, like, when you're on a cruise that you could explore. I always thought that it was just like you're just going to be on this boat and that's the entire vacation. So can you just explain a little bit more about the exploring part of being on a cruise?
Yeah. Absolutely. So we're talking about shore excursions here, which are those tours you take when you are in a port, and you can book those right through the cruise lines. Now, 10 and a half hours in port, say Barcelona or Rome, that's a lot of time to get a great tour, but then maybe also venture off on your own, go for a stroll, have a great dinner at an awesome restaurant. So you get the best of both worlds. You might get that organized tour and then a little more time for that independent exploration.
Now, what does vacation planning look like when you're on a cruise?
Well, Europe is absolutely hot right now. And so, one of the things that our readers told us, a quarter of them have actually said that they're going to Europe this summer on a cruise, which is super exciting to see. So, it's important to do your research. Visit sites like cruisecritic.com for tips and tricks. And of course, to talk to other cruise travelers just like you. It's also super important to know what you want to do. So if you want to do sun and fun and maybe some beaches, Greek Isles are a great way to see Europe. Do a deeper dive into some cultural exploration. There's Northern Europe. If you want the best of both of those, consider a Mediterranean cruise. This is one of those wildly popular cruises that are great even for first timers. And I know we're talking 2023 right now, but we're seeing really strong interest in 2024. So another tip is, if you see an itinerary you love, book it. That's the only way to ensure that you're going to get the itinerary, the cabin, the destination, and the ship that you want. So don't hesitate. Make sure you see it, you book it.
Now, you mentioned that there's like so many, like you could choose from different cruises. And I know, like just watching TV, I see commercials for so many different types of cruises. How can somebody know they're picking the right one that's perfect for their vacation or possibly for their family?
Well, there are so many options. And I mentioned cruisecritic.com. It's a great place to go and visit to do research. We also recommend that people work with travel advisors. These are people who know the cruise industry very well and can really help you narrow in on the right ship, the right destination for you. And summer is such a great time for family cruising. There are a number of cruise lines that are sailing there that are perfect for families. As a matter of fact, Norwegian Prima, which Cruise Critic named its editor's pick for best new ship of 2022, is sailing in Europe right now. And its sister ship, Norwegian Viva, is set to debut in August. This is going to be an identical ship to Norwegian Prima, and there's still some availability on its early sailings, which include 7, 9, and 10-night itineraries to places like Spain, Italy, and Greece.
Now, you talk a little bit about Cruise Critic. Can you just tell us a little bit more in detail what that, I guess, website or, what that organization is about?
Yeah, so Cruise Critic is the world's largest consumer cruise website. It offers tips and planning tips, as well as it's got a robust community where people who love cruising get together and talk about cruising. So if you are looking for information because you've never cruised before, we're a great first stop.
Now, something that I really want to talk about, which I feel like would be really great for, maybe people who lived in one area or, they're just not used to traveling, especially to places like Europe. Can you just say, like, is this a good option for those who are worried about encounters or safety? Why could cruising maybe help with that?
One of the things that we love about cruising is it does handle all of the details for you. So you plan it out from home. You work with a travel advisor. You book directly with the cruise line. However you book, you take care of all of the stuff ahead of time. As soon as you're on board, everybody else takes care of you, which is really nice. And so it's a great option for making sure you visit multiple cities. Of course, you're going to be visiting big cities in Europe, and this is a great way of getting there. There are organized shore excursions, so you're going to be getting top experts who the cruise lines have handpicked to host these shore excursions. And you're going to be in an environment where you can have your hand held. Now, if you're more of an independent explorer, you absolutely can do that as well. But for those who are a little bit intimidated, it's a really great way of making sure that you're looked out for.
Now, I love the passion that you have behind, just like this idea of cruising. And I definitely already feel influenced. I want to try a cruise one day because I never have. What excites you about this type of travel?
The great thing about cruising is it can take you to multiple destinations and serve as a little bit of a taster for you. This is something that I absolutely love about it, because you can visit a port and you can put it on that list of like, boy, this is a place I want to come back to again and again. So that's really great. There are also places on this planet that truly you can only get to by ship. And so this is a great way of seeing some of those places. It's also really great when it comes to the cost. So I mentioned Northern Europe itineraries, and Norwegian Prima, for example, is sailing in Northern Europe. So it's sailing to Iceland and Norway. These places are generally pretty cost prohibitive if you visit them by land. It's expensive. Hotels, dining, etc. are expensive. And so when you do it by cruise ship, you don't have to pay the expenses that are associated with those places. And yet you still get to visit these amazing destinations.
Now, what advice would you give to people who are looking to maybe book a cruise, or, maybe they're still a little bit undecided?
Well, I think that one piece of advice that everybody should hear is, if you've never cruised before, it's probably not what you expect it was going to be. And ships are getting more and more packed with amenities. They are becoming a destination in and of themselves. They're a great way to see Europe. But if you want to take a day and just chill out on the ship, there's so much to offer. There's world-class dining. There's Broadway quality entertainment, gorgeous accommodations. And, one of the things that I really love, they have tremendous spas these days. You can have a really great spa experience where you're spending the day hanging out by the thermal pool and visiting the sauna and that kind of thing. It's a really relaxing experience.
Now, because I've never been on a cruise, I really want to know, can you tell that you're on a boat the entire time, or is it easy to forget?
Well, I've taken a few cruises, so I admit that I don't necessarily remember all the time that I am on a ship, because I don't feel the motion the way some other people do. But ships have terrific stabilizers, and seasickness is really rare on itineraries, especially around Europe, that kind of thing. But the great thing about a cruise ship is you can always see the ocean. So you have the best views from anywhere, be it your cabin if you've got a balcony, or the top decks of the cruise line or the cruise ship. So you can absolutely see that you are on a cruise and feel that connection to the sea.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was really exciting to learn about.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Kibin.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Can you see anything different as a pill?
No.
You don't know?
Fentanyl is being mixed into everything now. There's only one thing that will save somebody's life. That is naloxone nasal spray.
Fentanyl, it's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
Why would drug dealers put a lethal dose of fentanyl in drugs if they know it's so harmful?
Really just all about the money.
I just didn't realize that one pill could change your whole life.
More kids should know.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. And I can't let this happen to my kid. Of course, it's awkward to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping. Hey, bestie, how sketch is vaping? It's hard to get their attention. Ready? Go. Yes, look at that. You didn't turn yours over. So if you want to talk to your kids about the dangers of vaping, you have to get it trending. Right, backpack kid?
Let's do it.
First, invite your kid to do the vape talk. Let's try this. All right.
Why is he here?
Yeah, I gotta get it trending, honey.
Come on.
To the left. To the right. Let's go.
Oh, honey, can we talk?
Yeah, what's up?
I see a lot of your friends vaping.
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. 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 Woo.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Welcome back. Today is World Refugee Day, and we'll learn how organizations Airbnb.org and the International Organization for Migration provide crucial shelter to refugees and asylum seekers one home at a time. The director of Airbnb.org, Kristen Berlacher, and Amy Pope, the deputy director for management and reform at IOM, join me to discuss their efforts. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Now, Kristen, can you highlight the work Airbnb is doing to support refugees from Ukraine and Afghanistan?
Sure. So Airbnb.org is a separate nonprofit organization that was established to help provide housing for people who have been displaced by disasters and conflict. And specifically in Ukraine, we've been working with a number of partners, including IOM, to provide housing for more than 135,000 people so far.
And can you just expand, what parts of our country are actually offering, a lot of this support?
Sure. So we've had hosts all across the U.S. open their homes for people from Ukraine and many other conflicts, everything from, major cities to smaller local communities. It really is a nationwide effort.
Now, Amy, as someone who worked with an organization that focuses on migration, can you explain why this effort is so important?
There are more than 100 million people who are on the move today, and they are being displaced by a range of issues. Sometimes it's conflict, like the situation in Ukraine. Sometimes it's due to disasters, which were becoming more and more significant as a result of climate change. So it's absolutely critical that we have partnerships with key partners like Airbnb.org that help to provide very practical solutions to those most in need.
Now, I also really like to know, obviously housing is a huge necessity, but what are some other, areas of support that's needed for refugees?
From our point of view, it's often shelter is number one, but then we provide non-food items, so clothing, hygiene kits, allowing people to move with dignity. And often it's, frankly, cash donations, whether it's to Airbnb.org or IOM through our nonprofit organization, USA for IOM.
Now, I'm really glad that you mentioned that because I think a lot of people want to help out. And so they say we need to help give people shelter. But there's so much that makes a human, like you mentioned, like having access to food or even just like recognizing or acknowledging mental health. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that there's other areas of support that could be had, for refugees. Now, Kristen, what are some newer Airbnb initiatives that are in the works to support refugees?
Well, as Amy mentioned, we've been working together in Ukraine for over a year now. We're also responding to the situation in Turkey and Syria after the earthquakes, where a large population of people impacted were refugees as well. We've been working for a number of years supporting those displaced by the conflict in Venezuela, Syria, Haiti. So really, our work is global.
And I understand that there's a $2 million sponsorship initiative that supports expanded legal pathways. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So here in the U.S., there's a really exciting initiative underway where everyday people can get involved with sponsoring refugees who are arriving in the U.S. And we want to help make sure that having access to housing reduces some of those blockers to entry for people that are interested in sponsoring a refugee. So this new $2 million initiative will be helping provide that immediate temporary place to stay when refugees first arrive and when they're looking for that longer term accommodation.
That's amazing. And then how can people actually learn about that? Because I imagine that most people think the most that they can do is maybe like help out at a food drive or something. But I think it's amazing that they can actually offer way more support. So how can they actually learn about that?
Sure. Well, there's a number of really kind of more hands-on way to get involved with refugees in your own communities. It could be everything from volunteering with local organizations to, as you mentioned, becoming a sponsor through the State Department's new Welcome Corps initiative, and then also signing up to become a host and hosting refugees through Airbnb.org.
Now, Amy, I really, because of the organization that you work with, I really want to know, your opinions or just your thoughts on, I guess, how the average person doesn't tend to think about, the life of a refugee. We may see it on the news, but I think that a lot of people tend to, after they see the news, they go on about their lives. What can we do as just regular people to support and just acknowledge another life that somebody has?
Well, the most surefire way is to build a human connection. The more we see people engage, whether it's opening their homes or inviting someone to dinner or just being there to provide support, the more we see people recognize that refugees, people on the move, are just like all of us. And we can connect just as humans to humans. So I think that's absolutely critical in order to build the support we need for a growing problem around the world.
Now, I really want to touch on the partnership between Airbnb.org and IOM. I was very shocked to see, obviously so many of us know about Airbnb, but I had no idea that they were doing like amazing work like this. Can you just explain how it's been critical to helping people in need? And I'd like to actually hear from both of you.
Well, if I start from just the perspective of the Ukraine response, where we had millions of people who were on the move being displaced within Ukraine and across its borders, Airbnb.org provided critical support to people who were extremely vulnerable. Many of them were women and children, many were elderly, and there were some people who had disabilities. So having an option for a dignified place to stay was key in just creating some peace of mind and allowing people to focus on other critical needs.
And Kristen, can you just talk?
As Amy mentioned.
Oh, yes, you can continue.
Yeah, as Amy mentioned, when refugees are forced to flee, it's often that most immediate urgent need is finding a temporary place to stay. And so that's why Airbnb.org works with organizations like IOM and often with hosts who offer their space for free or at a discount. And not having to worry about housing, even temporarily, allows refugees to focus on other critical needs like medical care, social services. So, for instance, we had a guest named Alina who fled her home in Odessa with just a backpack after the war in Ukraine broke out. And IOM connected her to Airbnb.org hosts who not only opened their home to her, but also helped with things like groceries and doctor's appointments, really giving her a sense of connection and community, that human element that I think is so important when people have been uprooted from their homes and separated from their families.
And then can you just tell us, how does it feel to be part of an organization that, everyone loves Airbnb because of, the joy and the freedom that it gives when going on vacations, but they're doing some really amazing work and, just like making a difference in our community. So how does it feel to be a part of that?
Well, it's definitely an honor. I've been with the organization for almost 9 years now, and I can say that it really is our hosts, our partners like IOM and donors that have made this work possible.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining me. I definitely learned a lot, about World Refugee Day and, just the importance that, organizations around, our country are doing to support these people. So thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We have more open for you right after this.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug, you know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for you. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
My character, Shazam, knows all about growing up in a family full of teenage superheroes. They're bold.
Where's everyone going?
To fight crime?
Okay. Adventurous. Shazam! There's never a dull moment. And no matter what happens, they'll always have your back. All they need is a place to grow and be themselves. And the best part is, you don't have to be a superhero to adopt a teen. Learn more about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward.
¿Qué color? Perfecto, mijo.
Gracias. Thank you.
What's wrong, mijo?
Donating to a pet's medical care is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Welcome back. The largest LGBTQ plus civil rights organization in America, known as the Human Rights Campaign, recently issued a national state of emergency for the LGBTQ plus community. This announcement comes after a recent increase in violence and harmful attempts towards anti-trans legislation. Founder and executive director of Destination Tomorrow, Shah and Ebony Coleman, joins me to discuss the state of emergency and how efforts from extremist groups could harm members of this community. Shah, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, first, can you just talk a little bit about the organization, the Human Rights Campaign, and the work that they do for LGBTQ plus communities?
So as you mentioned, HRC, or the Human Rights Campaign, is America's largest LGBTQ plus civil rights organization. So in addition to something like this state of emergency, which is the first of its kind, it also looks at companies and municipalities to see how safe and affirming those spaces are for LGBTQ plus community members, and they give a rating, and then they issue reports to kind of give us a sense or a pulse on what's happening within LGBTQ communities. And what they did last week was they issued this state of emergency, which is long overdue. But what it does is it highlights some of the hateful legislation that's being drafted and in some cases passed against LGBTQ community members.
Now, you mentioned that this is the first of its kind, and that really stood out to me because as we're moving towards the future, right, it's 2023, the fact that something like this had to happen was very shocking to me. Can you just explain, your thoughts on seeing something like that?
Well, yes, in some ways it had to happen. It was destined to happen. History often repeats itself. I think what's happening now is folks are feeling like members of the LGBTQ community are finally having representation, right? We're finally becoming integrated, if you will, in society. And I think for some folks it's a little scary, especially those folks who don't have a relationship or to actually know someone who identifies within the LGBTQ community. And I think this is a response to it, right? It's in some ways, it's kind of trying to draw back some of the rights and protections we've been able to secure over the last couple of years.
Now, what was the anti-trans legislation that led HRC to issue a state of emergency?
I don't think there's one piece, right? If you're paying attention, there have been over 525 bills that have explicitly been drafted that target the LGBTQ community, particularly more so the trans and gender nonconforming, non-binary community members, and in a lot of those instances, like in 20 states, a lot of it is already passed, right? The laws have already passed, and I think this was a way to kind of like call attention to the fact that right now there are some harmful legislators that are passing really nonsensical laws and within their respective spaces that do more harm than good to members of the LGBTQ community. And I think this was a perfect way to kind of like highlight what's happening. And like, this is a call to action from our allies. We're highlighting exactly what's happening to us. And we need folks to like really pay attention to it now.
Now, you brought up allies, and I want to touch on that. What can allies do to ensure that they're actually supporting the community? You know, as we know, it's Pride Month, and a lot of people, it's a celebration. It's a moment to celebrate, the people that you love who are part of this community. But it also takes a lot of work, and sometimes you do have to address things like this. So what can allies do to be more supportive?
To your point, what allies can do to be more supportive is to like contact your legislators, especially if you're in a state that is proposing some of these laws, right? Show them your opposition to them. There's research that backs what we're saying, that there's nothing, especially with gender affirming care, it's healthcare, right? So if we and our allies are speaking in the same tone and the same voice, making the same points and referencing back to facts, there's no way that these types of laws can continue to be proposed and in some cases passed. So we need your voice at this point, right? We need you to be on the front line with us. We need you to be educated about exactly what's happening. And again, HRC did an amazing job with this state of emergency because you now can see these laws that are being passed and we need your help pushing back.
Now, a huge part of your work is, representing and supporting those of the trans community. I understand that there's a huge focus on the trans community when it comes to these, these bills that are very harmful. Yes. Can you just talk a little bit more about that and how it kind of proves that, when it comes to the LGBT, there's, everybody's going to have a different experience?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we really, really need to tease out, right? Because when we speak about it, we say these anti-LGBT laws, but in reality, they're actually anti-trans and gender nonconforming, non-binary laws. They're specifically targeting that section of our community. And again, we have to highlight the fact, yes, we are part of the LGBT community, but the attacks that are happening to the trans and gender nonconforming, non-binary communities. And these attacks, these legislative attacks, also result in real violence towards these community members, to our community members. In that it's like almost like you dehumanize folks when you begin to have these discussions and when you begin to try to take ownership over someone else's body and their autonomy. And if you're able to do that, then what's to say that I can't harm you without worry that there's going to be some kind of sanction against me if our own government is already saying that something about this isn't correct. So it does a lot of violence, both as far as the laws and policies that are being passed, but also physical violence.
Now, I also want to talk about something called the anti-drag ban. This isn't necessarily, I guess, a trans issue. I mean, it could be, but it's primarily for drag queens and performers and a lot of people who want to ban that. Can you just detail and tell us a little bit more about what that's about?
For the life of me, I can't understand for years, actors have gotten into drag. There's Miss Doubtfire, and drag queens have entertained for a very, very long time. RuPaul's Drag Race is another example. So to now use this as a way to say, no, this is bad and they're targeting children. How? When we've been educating and entertaining, when drag queens have been educating and entertaining forever. So it kind of is disingenuous to now say, well, this is a bad thing now. What makes it bad now? Right? We are making sure that like with Drag Story Hour in New York City, It's an amazing platform that goes in and educates in the form of reading to younger people, right? So you have diverse community members that are coming in and not just entertaining but educating as well. That should be win-win. And instead, we are met with this kind of rhetoric around how it's a bad thing and it shouldn't happen. Absolutely makes no sense.
And, now that you mentioned it, I'm like, yeah, like drag queens have been a part of like mainstream culture for a very long time. So as I mentioned earlier, in the interview, like I'm kind of shocked that like it seems like we're moving backwards when it comes to acceptance and, representation, because like you mentioned, it's been around for such a long time.
We're allowing folks to come in and to divide us, right? And to make things that used to be innocent and fun to now be problematic. And instead of having a discussion around why this is actually happening, some folks are actually falling into the nonsense and believing or championing some of the things that just don't make sense. And I think this is a place for our allies to step in. Those folks that enjoy RuPaul's Drag Race and those other types of venues where drag queens are present and entertaining, for you to use your voice and say, this is something we've always done. Where's the harm?
Now, forced student outing and don't say gay bills primarily affect school-aged children. What are your thoughts on educational institutions being this involved in a student's identity or even family home life?
Just like I don't believe doctors should be legislators should be involved in decisions between women and their doctors. I don't believe that educators should be doing that either. I think parents need to be able to parent their children in a way that they understand and that is safe and affirming for their child. A parent knows their child and they know what's best for them. We believe that in every other sense except in this sense, and I don't understand why the difference. If we're not managing everything that a parent has to do and say for their child, why is this different?
Now, as I mentioned, a lot of these bills affect the youth. How could the passing of these bills negatively affect, their experience as members of the LGBTQ plus community, or how they may view family members or friends who are a part of that community?
I think it's disheartening, right? It almost makes, as a Black trans man, it makes you feel like you don't belong, you're not accepted, and you're not wanted. And it's a horrible feeling to have. And it's especially horrible when it's amplified through government officials and policymakers to ostracize an entire community. So as a young person, I can imagine that they're concerned about their future. What type of future are you guaranteed if laws that are being passed to remove you or not include your very existence? They're telling you your existence doesn't matter. So I'm sure it's disheartening, which is again why we have to support our young people. And then the second part to that is they're also doing it to adults as well. They started in the schools. And maybe that was the easiest way to start and get this divisive message out. But there's only a matter of time before they start saying what kind of medical care that all trans people can receive. And I believe in Mississippi they did, but all trans people can receive. So if we're not going to be responsive now, the attacks are just going to continue to happen, and they're going to be extended to all members of the trans and gender nonconforming non-binary community.
Now, how can people from other states find safe and legit services to support them? I think that we're lucky in New York that a lot of New Yorkers, we have resources here in New York, and I'll get you to talk about those as well. But can you talk about in other states, how can people make sure that they're going to organizations that are legit and actually support them?
Well, that's so two parts to the question, right? I think the first thing is, yes, we are lucky in New York. And actually, Mayor Adams just signed an executive order stating that anyone that comes to New York City for any kind of gender affirming care for their young person, they don't have to worry about sanctions when they go home. They have the full protections of being here. And if there's any kind of legal action that the state that they're from would try to get us to like extradite them back or send them back for those purposes, we won't. So New York City is a safe haven again for those seeking trans and gender nonconforming care. I think that's what's most important. I think the second thing is to find resources in those sanctuary cities, right? Because we can connect. I know at Destination Tomorrow, we can connect you to services that may be close to where you are, or find ways to bring you in other cities or states that will be able to help you with the care that you need.
Now, I know we've talked so many times about your organization, so I know about it. But for those who don't know, can you just let everybody know what your organization does to support this community?
So Destination Tomorrow is the Bronx LGBTQ Center. We just had Bronx Pride. It was an amazing event. Every year we get about 5,000-6,000 people to come out and party with us. This year was no different. We have a lineup of talent that comes through. We have some drag queens that come through and hang out with us. And it's just an amazing time. But outside of that, we're a direct service organization, and we focus on economic empowerment. So job readiness, GED, financial literacy, life skills. Those are some of the primary things that we started with. The organization has grown. We opened in 2009, and we've grown tremendously since. We're now doing housing. We have a food pantry. We do HIV testing. We're really just a one-stop shop for the LGBTQ community in the Bronx and surrounding areas. And we've expanded. We've grown. We opened a location in Atlanta, Georgia last year.
Congrats.
And
that's amazing.
Thank you. And I'm happy to report we just received the first funding ever for an LGBT organization in the city of Atlanta of $25,000 to do mentorship programs for LGBT youth. And I think that's important because, to your earlier point, what must these young people feel like? With mentors that we're going to connect them to, we're going to make sure that they are emotionally and mentally well, so they can continue on whatever course of their life takes them on. Whether that's that they're going to continue being part of this community, whatever these young people decide, we want to make sure that we connect them to mentors that they can relate to and that have the same lived experience. So we get through this together. So we're super excited about the work that we're doing in Atlanta, and there's some more expansions that are in the pipeline. So we're super excited about the work that we do.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and educating everybody on this topic. It's so important. So once again, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
To stay in touch with Destination Tomorrow, please go to their website at www.destinationtomorrow.org or follow them on Instagram at DestinationTomorrow452. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open right after this.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. Oh, how did I get here? I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
It's the way my mind works. I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
analytics and empathy. That's how I'm getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I am more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
We all know what it's like to feel alone. But it just takes one new connection. Want to get out of here? To empower many.
This is unbelievable.
It doesn't take a superhero to bring forces together. We all have the power to reach out.
Let's go!
and help someone feel like they belong.
Pretty cool, huh?
We are stronger together.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start chocolate dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
Welcome back. The organization National Retail Solutions partnered with the Bodega and Small Business Group, along with several other independent retail store owners in New York, to combat crime. In response to several robberies in Staten Island, Washington Heights, Queens, and the Bronx, the NRS plans to donate panic alarm systems to bodegas across the 5 boroughs at no cost. The Director of Community Relations, Shah, and the Director of E-Commerce Solutions, Joshua Korman, join me to discuss their efforts. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, Josh, can you tell me a little bit more about the National Retail Solutions organization?
Sure. So National Retail Solutions is the leading provider of point of sale, commonly referred to as POS systems, to small independent convenience stores, bodegas, and they're referred to by many different names in different regions. Here, obviously, bodegas. Our guiding philosophy and underlying mission statement begs the question, how can we support these small businesses through straightforward, robust, and affordable technology solutions? Before many of our customers had the POS, they were typically using old Casio registers, lock boxes, even cigar and shoe boxes to run their operations in their store. So having the POS and having this technology solution really helped revolutionize how they do business, and as well help to keep them competitive in an ever more competitive environment, especially with many of the much bigger names out there, 7-Eleven, Circle K's. These stores really need that competitive advantage. And I think really one of the most important components here is many of our customers are first or second generation immigrants, and they took a big chance launching a store and launching a business in this country, and they really do everything in their stores. They are product managers, they are HR, they are chief cook and bottle washer, and they really are entrepreneurs, and they need the support and they need the help of these big business organization tools, such as our POS and many of the other solutions we offer. And ultimately, these are the things that really help keep them competitive. As well, one of the most important components of what we do is the relationships we create. Many of our sales channels and sales team are from the communities in which they serve and in which the customers are in. So they have a deep relationship with customers, and I've visited many stores. I see how they interact with them, and it's much more of a friendship than it really is a professional one.
Like they kind of know you already, yeah.
Exactly. They were discussing family and other things related to the community much more than they were even discussing business. So that's how we really, try to operate NRS, and those are really the values that we have.
Now, Ricky, what have you noticed regarding the robberies affecting bodegas across New York City?
So sadly, with the robberies, they don't care where you are. For them, it's, I just want to grab something and go. Right now, a lot of robberies are people are in danger, not just the customers, the employees. A couple employees were shot, some were beaten. Now, some customers have been approached, but luckily they have not been harmed. But it's just, we don't want to see anybody get hurt.
No, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that a lot of people, when we hear, oh, like the store was robbed, you think that, people are just like taking the money, but unfortunately a lot of people do get hurt. So thank you so much for sharing that and letting us know the severity of the situation. Now, Josh, what effect, would these robberies have on these bodegas?
So I think the effects are many. There's the obvious one, personal safety. That's the first concern of anyone, the personal safety and the safety of the people around you. But I think the issue goes a lot deeper than that. These stores are second homes to many of the owners and operators and many of the employees. They spend a huge percentage of their time in that store, probably even more than they spend at home. So feeling secure and feeling safe from a psychological and emotional perspective is really pivotal, and it's key. It's key for their peace of mind. So obviously the safety issue, but feeling safe in a place that you spend countless hours in is critical. And as well, the economics can really hurt these stores. Unlike big retail chains who maybe can write off theft, it's much harder for these stores to write off theft. And when things get stolen, especially many things, it can be a real economic hardship for them.
Can you actually expand on that challenge? That was not something that I was aware of. Can you just expand on that a little bit more?
The economic challenge?
Yeah, like how, larger organizations can kind of write it off, whereas like smaller organizations can't?
Yes, absolutely. So large organizations, obviously they're well funded. They have complex organizational structures, and they build into their overall economics. We expect to have theft. We expect to have this many items missing from this location or that location. These stores, they can't anticipate that, and they can't write that off because they're laying out money for their product and for the things that they sell. And when they lose that, it's not so easy for them to recoup.
Now, Ricky, how is this affecting these owners, but the communities that they serve?
So as what Josh was saying, this business is a penny business. These small stores, there's not a lot of profit to be made. So what they're making, they're putting in their rent, their payroll, their products. So as they start losing their products, they start losing money, they're not going to be able to pay their people. They're not going to have products. So customers are going to stop coming in. If they start getting robbed, customers are going to fear for their life. Do I really want to go to that corner store that gets robbed every other week? I got to bring my kids. I got to bring my parents. They don't want to see any harm to get done to their families. So once they start losing the customer bases, that store is going to close up. Where are we going to go for our products? We can't always afford to go to the big box stores. We need to go to where we can afford to go, where they accept our EBTs. They give us credit because they know us. We've been here for 10, 12 years. They'll let us slide for a couple of days. We need them to be here to survive.
And, that also made me think about the fact that, I've seen children grow up, maybe the kids of the store owners, sometimes they're behind the counter, and, they actually grown up in the community. So it is so sad to hear, so many stores are dealing with this.
So I actually grew up, my father was a bodega owner in the Bronx. We closed that one up. We moved to Jersey. I grew up in a store. Luckily for us, we never had to face that harm where we were robbed at gunpoint, anybody was assaulted. So I grew up in it. I liked the business. I had my own business. I want that to keep continuing. I don't want people to say, I want to close down my bodega. I don't want my kids to take over. It's very hard. It's very difficult to survive when you're going to get robbed every other week. We don't need that. We need to keep everybody protected.
I'm so glad that you shared that because I had no idea. And I think that kind of adds another layer, I guess, to this entire story. Can you just explain, is that kind of what inspired you to become a part of this?
So I wanted to branch out. I wanted to grow in a different form, get some more experience outdoors to see what it's like for a company like National Retail Solutions to step into a store and get their product out there. So as I joined, I'm able to go meet these store owners, see their difficulties, and compare to what my difficulty was and try to help them.
That's amazing.
I was able to be helped by my parents, so I want to be out there and help other store owners.
Well, that's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Josh, how has your organization supported independent and small businesses, considering that you mentioned NRS?
Sure, of course. So we support them in many different ways. Obviously, what we're here today to talk about, the panic alarm, is one of our newer features in which we're really trying to help. But we do support them in many different ways. We have roundtables where we invite merchants to come and speak about issues they're having, and then we think of ways we can solve them. We have tons of products and services which are specifically geared towards small, independent type of retailers. So every product and service we ever come up with is always with that primary philosophy in mind. How can we help you run your store better? How can we make you more efficient? How can we make you competitive? And serving, to an extent, an underserved market, an underserved slice of the market. We have things like we just launched an e-commerce solution, which kind of fits into the same vein as the POS. How can we help these merchants now compete online? We have a funding department. How can we get their stores funded and buy the things they need, whether it's a new fridge, tons of different things that they might need for their store in order for them to operate better. So overall, we always take into account the NRS philosophy is how can we help, and then we create those solutions based on that philosophy.
Now, can you talk about the panic alarm system? I got to see a glimpse of it, and it looks really awesome. Can you talk a little bit more about it?
So the panic alarm button is put right onto the POS, where we can't show you exactly where it is, just for the safety of the store owners. We want to keep it a little safer for them. So right on the POS, that's our main screen. It's not going to show you anything where the POS is. We do train the store owners, the staff, how to use it, how it works, but we can't give away too much of the information.
Right, which makes sense. I think that's very smart not to do that. But how will this help mitigate issues of robberies for so many of these store owners?
So there's a lot of different panic alarm buttons that aren't on your register, on your point of sale. You have to really jug up underneath the counter to find it. When somebody's there with a gun to you, they see you fumbling, looking for something, they're not going to think it's a panic button. They're going to think you're looking for a weapon. So their main point is to shoot because they don't want to get hurt. So their main job is, I'll take down the threat, I'll get my money and leave. With this one, you go straight to the register, you hit that panic alarm button, you let the drawer open up if you can. If not, at least you could have the police come to you right away.
Now, can you talk about your partnership with the Bronx Community Foundation and the Bodega and Small Business Group? I understand that's part of the reason why you're going to be donating some of these.
Yeah, so Francisco with the Bodega and Small Business Group has become a good partnership for us. Not only was able to sit with him and learn about what the struggles are with the store owners in the Bronx, Harlem, we're able to help them. Our main goal is to reach out to clientele that we don't already have to see where their struggles are and try to help them out.
Now, Josh, what do you hope to see in the future in regard to this effort and just keeping more small business owners safe and, keeping their families and their community safe?
Of course. So this panic alarm, I think, has launched some internal thinking for us and how can we better protect our stores, obviously offering them the tools they need to operate their store and to market their store and all these things to run their business. But there's definitely talking within the company. How can we bring even more tools to help keep these stores safe? So we actually already offer a camera, and that comes with some of the packages of the POS, so they can actually get a camera. Obviously the panic alarm, and we're always forward thinking. How can we protect our stores? Because the protection of our stores is really key. So there's definitely things on the horizon, and I hope we can get working fast and really help these stores stay safe.
Well, I appreciate you both taking the time to talk about this. I learned a lot. One, I didn't know that so many store owners still use boxes,
Well, less now.
You still find a good number of them that still believe in that. So they think it's hidden.
Right.
But you'll see a lot of different unique ways
that people are kind of doing things in the background. Well, once again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk about this and, this effort to protect more communities. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
To find out more about NRS installment of Panic Alarm System, please go to their website at www.nrsplus.com. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the Recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.